There comes a point in every Sigma male's life when he stops trying to prove his worth to people who never valued it. He stops chasing validation, approval, or connection, and instead, he chooses himself, not out of arrogance, but out of exhaustion. He's given loyalty to the wrong ones, sacrificed peace for others' comfort, and stayed silent while being misunderstood. But one day, something changes. He realizes that self-respect feels better than being liked, and solitude feels safer than fake loyalty. When a Sigma male chooses himself, it's not revenge, it's evolution. He stops explaining his decisions, stops fixing broken bonds, and starts investing all that energy back into his own growth. It's the moment he reclaims his power, not by controlling others, but by mastering himself. In this video, we'll break down what truly happens when a Sigma male finally chooses himself over everyone else, and why it's the turning point that changes everything. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to UltraWise, like this video, and comment, "I choose myself." Because once a Sigma male learns to prioritize his peace, there's no going back. He stops explaining his choices. When a Sigma male chooses himself, one of the first things he stops doing is explaining his decisions to people who never truly understood him in the first place. He realizes that the need to explain comes from a desire to be accepted, and that desire often leads to unnecessary exhaustion. For most of his life, he's probably tried to justify his silence, his distance, or his ambition to those who felt threatened by it. But over time, he learns that no explanation will ever satisfy someone committed to misunderstanding him. So he stops talking and starts moving in silence. This shift doesn't happen overnight. It comes after countless experiences where his honesty was twisted, his boundaries questioned, and his calmness mistaken for weakness. The Sigma male starts to see a pattern, that people who truly respect him don't need a detailed explanation for every decision he makes. They trust his intent, they recognize his consistency, and they give him space to evolve. On the other hand, those who demand explanations are often the ones who benefit from his self-doubt. Once he understands that, he becomes selective about what he shares, and with whom. By withdrawing the need to justify himself, he reclaims a massive amount of power. He no longer lets other people's opinions dictate his next move. If he wants to disappear for a while, focus on his goals, or cut off toxic relationships, he simply does it, without warning, apology, or approval. This independence confuses those who used to control him through guilt or pressure. They'll call him distant, cold, or arrogant, but what he's really doing is choosing peace over performance. Silence becomes his language of confidence. It's not about being secretive, it's about protecting what matters. When a Sigma male stops explaining, he stops negotiating his boundaries. He trusts his intuition more than he trusts external validation. Every decision, whether big or small, is made with clarity, not permission. And here's the truth. The moment he stops explaining himself is the moment people start taking him seriously. His actions speak louder, his presence feels heavier, and his focus becomes undeniable. The Sigma male no longer needs to be understood to be respected. He knows that real power doesn't come from convincing others. It comes from knowing exactly who you are and moving accordingly. Even if no one claps for it, he walks away from one-sided effort. When a Sigma male chooses himself, he finally stops fighting for connections that only survive because of his effort. He no longer chases people who wouldn't take a single step toward him. He stops being the one who always reaches out, always forgives first, and always holds things together while others take him for granted. This isn't bitterness, it's clarity. He realizes that love, friendship, and loyalty can't exist on one person's shoulders. If he's the only one trying, then it's not a connection, it's servitude. For most of his life, the Sigma male has been the silent giver, the one who listens more than he talks, understands more than he's understood, and forgives even when it's undeserved. But over time, That quiet empathy becomes exhaustion. He notices how certain people only show up when they need something, validation, help, or comfort, and disappear once they've drained his energy. The realization stings at first, but it becomes his awakening. He learns that real relationships don't need to be chased. They flow naturally. They're reciprocal. Walking away doesn't mean he stops caring. It means he stops bleeding for people who wouldn't even notice if he was gone. The Sigma male doesn't slam doors or announce his departure. He just starts withdrawing, piece by piece. Shorter replies, less availability, fewer explanations, until one day, he's gone completely. The people who took him for granted will call him distant or cold, but he knows better. Fatalism. He simply learned that peace feels better than pretending. This decision to walk away isn't emotional, it's strategic. He understands that his time and energy are finite, and investing them in people who don't reciprocate only slows his growth. Instead of chasing approval, he channels that energy into building himself, his goals, his health, his mindset. Every ounce of attention he once gave to others now fuels his purpose. That's when he becomes dangerous in the best way possible, detached, focused, and unstoppable. And the irony is, once he walks away, the same people who ignored his effort suddenly feel his absence. They realize too late that the calm, consistent presence they took for granted was the glue holding everything together. But by then, the Sigma male is already gone. Not with anger, but with peace. Because when a man finally learns to stop overextending himself, he doesn't lose people. He loses distractions. He invests in his own growth. When a Sigma male chooses himself, his focus shifts completely inward. He stops pouring energy into people who don't match his effort and starts investing that same power into his own evolution. Instead of trying to fix others, he begins upgrading himself, his mindset, his discipline, and his future. For the first time in a long time, he puts his name at the top of his priority list. The Sigma male understands that growth isn't glamorous. It's quiet, repetitive, and often lonely. But he's not afraid of that process. While most people need external motivation, praise, recognition, or validation, he fuels himself through purpose. He doesn't wait for the perfect moment to start improving. He just begins. He wakes up earlier, reads more, learns new skills, and works in silence while others talk about what they'll do someday. That's the difference. The Sigma doesn't plan to become better. He becomes better, one disciplined day at a time. This shift changes everything. Instead of arguing, proving, or chasing, he redirects his energy toward progress. Every time he's betrayed, he studies the lesson. Every setback becomes a strategy. Every failure becomes data. The Sigma male understands that the world respects results, not excuses, and the best revenge against doubt is undeniable success. That's why he keeps his goals private and his work consistent. He knows that talking about improvement doesn't build anything. Doing the work does. Investing in himself also means protecting his environment. He becomes intentional about who he allows near him. He no longer spends time around negativity, gossip, or lazy energy. He realizes that growth requires isolation, and isolation reveals strength. He'd rather be alone building something real than surrounded by people who keep him stagnant. The Sigma male thrives in that solitude. It's where his ideas form, his discipline sharpens, and his self-respect multiplies. Over time, his life begins to shift. People notice his calm confidence, his sharper focus, his independence, and they wonder what changed. The truth? He simply stopped investing in everyone else and started betting on himself. That's the moment the Sigma becomes unstoppable. Because when a man decides to pour his time, effort, and love into his own growth, He stops chasing opportunities, he starts creating them. He stops seeking external validation. When a Sigma male chooses himself, one of the most powerful transformations he experiences is cutting the dependency on external validation. He stops needing applause to feel accomplished, approval to feel confident, or attention to feel seen. He spent years being misunderstood, underestimated, and sometimes ignored. But instead of chasing recognition, he learns to thrive without it. His worth is no longer a negotiation, it's a fact he carries quietly. In the past, the Sigma might have looked for acknowledgement in subtle ways, working harder so others would notice, staying loyal so people would appreciate it, or explaining himself to be understood. But those efforts only left him drained. He realized that seeking validation is a form of control. It gives other people the power to define his value. Once he saw that, he reclaimed that power completely. Now, he no longer performs for approval. He builds for purpose. He doesn't post his wins to prove a point. He doesn't brag about what he's working on. He doesn't need a crowd to confirm he's on the right path. His satisfaction comes from discipline, from showing up when no one's watching, from improving silently, from knowing he's staying true to his path while others are distracted by noise. For the Sigma, solitude and self-belief are better motivators than applause. When he stops seeking external validation, his energy shifts. He becomes grounded, calm, and almost intimidating in his self-assurance. People start to notice his lack of desperation, the way he moves with quiet confidence, not arrogance. That's because he no longer measures success by reactions. Whether others like him, agree with him, or even understand him no longer matters. What matters is alignment, that his actions reflect his standards and his purpose. This detachment makes him untouchable. Praise doesn't inflate him, and criticism doesn't shake him. He listens, but he's not controlled by opinions. The Sigma male's validation now comes from progress, from the quiet satisfaction of becoming who he said he'd be without needing the world's approval. That's what makes him stand out in a world addicted to attention. While everyone else is performing for likes, he's focused on legacy. While others chase followers, he's chasing mastery. The Sigma male doesn't need validation anymore, because the only person he's trying to impress now is the man he sees in the mirror. He chooses solitude over noise. When a Sigma male truly chooses himself, he begins to crave silence more than company. He realizes that peace isn't found in crowds, conversations, or constant stimulation. It's found in solitude. To him, solitude isn't isolation, it's a sanctuary. It's where he can think clearly, reset emotionally, and sharpen his focus without interference. In a world addicted to noise and distraction, he becomes grounded in stillness. For most of his life, the Sigma male probably tried to balance his inner world with the chaos around him, the demands, the expectations, the endless noise from people who talk but never listen. But over time, he starts noticing something. Every time he steps back into silence, his clarity returns. His intuition strengthens. His creativity flourishes. That's when he understands that being alone isn't lonely, it's powerful. Solitude gives him something no relationship, friendship, or social circle ever could: total control over his energy. In silence, there's no judgment, no manipulation, no obligation to play roles. He doesn't have to explain who he is or defend what he believes. He can just be. And that freedom becomes addictive. The more time he spends alone, the less tolerance he has for meaningless conversations or shallow connection. This doesn't mean he hates people. It means he values quality over quantity. He chooses silence over small talk, purpose over popularity, and peace over pretending. When he disconnects from noise, he reconnects with truth, his truth. The world moves fast and loud, but the Sigma male moves with intention. He's not chasing what's trending, he's building what's lasting. And, ironically, the more he embraces solitude, the stronger he becomes in the world. His decisions become sharper, his emotions more stable, and his confidence unshakable. He no longer depends on others for direction, because solitude gives him something external validation never could: self-clarity. That's why his calm energy unsettles people. They can't understand how someone can be so content in silence. But that's the Sigma's power. He doesn't need the world to fill his space. He fills it himself. Because he knows that when the noise fades and the crowd disappears, the man who's comfortable in his own company always stands the tallest. He redefines loyalty around respect. When a Sigma male chooses himself, his entire understanding of loyalty changes. He no longer gives it freely to anyone who demands it, only to those who earn it through consistency, honesty, and mutual respect. In his earlier years, he may have confused loyalty with tolerance, believing that standing by someone meant enduring their disrespect or excuses, but experience teaches him otherwise. Loyalty without respect isn't strength, it's self-betrayal. The Sigma male has been loyal to people who didn't value him, defended those who later doubted him, and stayed silent for those who would have exposed him without hesitation. He's learned that not everyone deserves his loyalty, and certainly not everyone can match it. Now, when he gives it, it's intentional. It's not blind commitment. It's earned trust. If you have his loyalty today, it's because you've proven you can handle it. He starts viewing relationships through a new lens. Respect becomes the foundation, not history, not emotions, not guilt. If someone crosses his boundaries or disrespects his energy, he doesn't argue or threaten to leave. He simply withdraws. No explanations, no confrontation, no drama. He's not loyal to people who manipulate his kindness or exploit his calmness. He's loyal to peace, integrity, and authenticity. And if that means walking away from people he once loved, so be it. This version of loyalty is quieter, stronger, and purer. It's not about showing up unconditionally. It's about showing up honorably. The Sigma understands that loyalty means nothing if it costs you your self-respect. He'd rather stand alone with dignity than stand beside someone who doesn't value him. That's why his loyalty now mirrors his standards, rare, disciplined, and unwavering, only when it's reciprocated. People might call him cold for this, but in reality, he's just learned emotional maturity. Loyalty built on guilt or obligation doesn't last. Loyalty built on mutual respect does. And once the Sigma redefines loyalty this way, his relationships become fewer but far more meaningful. Because now, he's not loyal to people's potential. He's loyal to his peace. He no longer promises forever to anyone. He simply gives respect to those who give it back, effort to those who earn it, and silence to those who don't. He protects his energy like currency. When a Sigma male chooses himself, he starts treating his energy like it's the most valuable thing he owns, because it is. He understands that every conversation, every argument, and every interaction is either an investment or an expense. And after being drained by people who mistook his patience for weakness, he learns that his energy isn't free. It's earned. In the past, and he gave it away carelessly, listening to everyone's problems, showing up for people who never reciprocated, tolerating negativity because he thought being understanding was noble. But eventually, he realized that not everyone deserves his emotional bandwidth. Some people only come around to take, complain, or unload, and by the time they leave, he's left feeling empty. So now, he filters access. Not everyone gets a response. Not every situation deserves a reaction, and not every battle is worth fighting. He doesn't waste time arguing with the insecure or defending himself against the manipulative. He knows that peace isn't found by fixing chaos. It's found by walking away from it. Protecting his energy means saying no more often, canceling out distractions, and surrounding himself with calm rather than noise. The Sigma male realizes that his focus, peace of mind, and emotional stability are what fuel his success, and he guards them with the same vigilance others use to guard their money. This shift transforms him. The more selective he becomes, the stronger he feels. He's no longer emotionally bankrupt by trying to please everyone. Instead, he spends his energy where it multiplies, on his goals, his growth, and the few people who genuinely respect his presence. He's learned that discipline isn't just about time management. People who once had unlimited access to him now feel the distance, and they call it arrogance. But it's not arrogance, it's evolution. The Sigma male simply refuses to negotiate his peace. He knows how expensive it is to let the wrong people drain him. So he invests his energy wisely in things that build him, not break him. Because once a man learns the real value of his energy, he stops spending it on anything that doesn't pay him back. In peace, progress, or purpose, he becomes unstoppable in silence. When a Sigma male finally chooses himself, he doesn't make a big announcement or post about it for the world to see. He simply goes silent. That's when his real transformation begins. In silence, he becomes sharper, stronger, and more dangerous, not in a destructive way, but in a focused, unstoppable way. While everyone else is busy talking about what they'll do, he's already doing it. He no longer wastes time proving his plans. He spends his time executing them. This silence is not emptiness, it's strategy. The Sigma male understands that power moves best when no one sees it coming. By withdrawing from noise, gossip, and meaningless validation, he creates a vacuum where his thoughts, goals, and vision can evolve freely. His solitude becomes his workshop. His calm becomes his weapon, and his quiet determination turns into progress that others can't compete with. He's learned that real growth doesn't happen in public. It happens behind closed doors, in the late nights, early mornings, and silent moments where discipline replaces distraction. While others broadcast their goals for attention, the Sigma male works in secrecy. And by the time people realize what he's been building, it's already too late. He's miles ahead, unbothered, and untouchable. Silence also protects him from interference. No one can sabotage what they don't know about. No one can ruin what they can't predict. He's seen how attention brings noise, envy, and unnecessary pressure, and that's why he prefers invisibility. The Sigma's silence is his invisibility cloak, allowing him to move through life without resistance, collecting results quietly, while others waste time chasing recognition. But make no mistake, his silence isn't weakness, it's controlled power. He doesn't need to be seen to be significant. Every day he's improving, mentally, financially, emotionally, not for validation, but for himself. He's no longer competing with anyone. He's becoming the best version of himself, and that's what makes him unstoppable. Because once a Sigma male chooses silence over attention, the world can't predict him, and that's exactly why it can't stop him. He doesn't talk about success, he becomes it. And by the time the world starts paying attention, he's already built everything they said he couldn't. Quietly, strategically, and on his own terms. When a Sigma male chooses himself, everything changes. The noise fades, the distractions fall away, and his focus becomes razor sharp. He stops chasing people, approval, and attention, and starts chasing purpose, peace, and mastery. The world may call it selfish, but it's not. It's self-respect. He's done explaining, done overextending, and done proving. From now on, his silence speaks louder than his presence ever did. This is when the Sigma male becomes unstoppable, when he no longer seeks validation from anyone but himself. His energy is protected, his loyalty is earned, and his time is sacred. The same people who once questioned his distance will eventually wonder how he built everything they only talked about. But by then, he'll be too focused on his next chapter to notice. Because the Sigma doesn't need recognition, he needs results. He knows that choosing himself isn't arrogance, it's alignment. And when a man finally chooses alignment over approval, no one can pull him off his path again. If this message resonated with you, subscribe to UltraWise. Like this video and comment, "I choose myself." Because once a Sigma male learns that peace and progress come from within, he never looks back.